came out, everyone really wants to hear you talk about, man. That's Lomachenko. Yeah. What's coming after the fight? That's what we want to know about. Is this man ducking you? How badly do you want this? How is this going to end?
I mean, after this fight, I'm the mandatory for Lomachenko. It's looking like he's ducking me, but you know, we'll see. After this fight, we'll see what happens. He keeps saying that he wants to go up and down and weight and fight all these other guys, but in reality, I'm the guy he should be fighting.
A lot of people say he's the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. He's got the age, he's got the experience. What makes you like an underdog? I don't want to call you an underdog, but you know what I'm saying. Like,
he's the #1 pound-for-pound fighter. You know why? Because he hasn't fought me.
What is your message to Lomachenko right now, man? You got something to say to him?
Stop ducking me. Listen, after this fight, I'm the mandatory. Let's make it happen. The fans want to see it. The fans are demanding it. Let's make it happen.
5 years from now, what do you want people to look back on and like remember you for the most? And then what do you want people to look back 10 years on and remember the most, man?
Being a young fighter, 5 years soon. 5 years later, I want them to say, damn, he was 20 years old, but he was beating all the old guys.
And he beat Lomachenko's ass.
And he beat the shit out of Lomachenko.
But I could pay Lomachenko 3 times what he's making at the moment to fight Devin Haney. They're not going to allow it to happen.
Okay, so Devin Haney is calling out Vasily Lomachenko, tells Vasily Lomachenko to stop ducking him. Okay, he also calls him NOMACHEKO because he says he doesn't want no parts of him. And he says, if I'm such an easy fight, then why don't you just take care of me and get me out of the way? You know, I like that little last part that he added on there. What are my thoughts on this? I'm going to go a lot of different ways on this, even some ways that are unexpected. But before we do that, the first thing I want to do is let's highlight Devin Haney. The reason why I want to highlight Devin Haney is simply this. Please take note that Devin Haney is calling out an opponent, a fighter, a quote-unquote pound-for-pound #1 spot contender. He's calling out somebody that Gervonta Tank Davis has openly ducked and said he is not ready for. Let me say that again. Devin Haney is calling out Vasily Lomachenko, okay, a fighter which Gervonta Tank Davis has avoided and said he is not ready and said he needed time to fight. That alone should let you know where you should place Devin Haney when it comes to the young and upcoming fighters and the young gunners, as far as the Shakur Stevensons, the Devin Haneys, the Teofimo Lopez's, the Ryan Garcias, you know what I'm saying, the new waves is coming up. That should put Devin Haney right there at the top, because everybody at least tries to praise Gervonta Tank Davis, saying he's this, saying he's this, saying he's that. But we all know he hasn't done anything. But everybody's hanging on to, oh, he's this kind of champion, and Devin Haney is not yet. But what does it say when this guy, who has less fights than Gervonta Tank Davis, is calling out the person that he is ducking? First, let's highlight on that. Okay? So that's something I just want to bring to the light when it comes to these diehard, I will walk off the edge of the cliff if you say so, Al Haymanite fans. You know what I'm saying? How can you? I first want an explanation for that. Can you explain that to me? While Devin Haney, you know what I'm saying, the young and upcomer, the one who ain't got no power like Gervonta Davis, he's still coming into his own, is calling out the one person that Gervonta Tank Davis has blatantly and openly ducked. He has ducked. His promoter has ducked. Floyd Mayweather has ducked. Everybody knows that. Okay, that standout alone, that deserves praise alone. You know, and I just had to highlight that for the PBC diehard Haymanite fanboys. Okay, so I don't want to hear no Devin Haney pound for pound if he fights such and such. Come on, stop with the silliness. Please stop with the silliness. We all know what that's about. You know that you can't lobby for your man Errol Spence, so you're going to go on to the next person who you think can enter the pound-for-pound talk, because it's become evidently clear to you that Spence is not considered the #1 3 pound-for-pound, definitely not the #1 2 pound-for-pound, and ain't no way in Sam Hell #1 pound-for-pound, and barely #4. He's number 5 and better. They have accepted that, so now they're just trying to move on to Gervonta Tank Davis. All right, so let's try to put him in a pound-for-pound talk. But y'all, hold on, y'all gun-ho Spence. Now y'all want to jump back on Gervonta Tank Davis? That's really funny to me. Okay, now getting on to Devin Haney, Vasily Lomachenko. Well, number one, honestly, me personally, this not a fight that I would lobby for. Lomachenko's headed in a direction that I wanted him to head in. Whether he wants to fight Devin Haney or fight this person or fight, whichever way he goes from here, I'm going to be pleased unless he goes back down. You know what I'm saying? Whether he fights Comey or Lopez, that's exactly what I want to see. Or if he fights Devin Haney or not, as long as he goes for his undisputed, I have no quarrels with anything that he does. Now, things that I've noticed. And double standards. It's always double standards. People are always contradicting themselves. One thing I don't like, Devin Haney's a young gun. It's the same thing that I campaigned for Teofimo Lopez for. Devin Haney is a young gun, okay? Stop telling these young guns to slow their roll, okay? I said it and I keep saying it. And one end, you complain about people cherry picking. Then in the other end, you complain about people for calling out fighters that you think they don't have no business calling out or they're not ready to fight. Let their team decide who they're ready to fight. I'm sick of that. You guys can't have it both ways. You can't complain about cherry pickers and then you can't complain about ambitious fighters. Don't you understand that that's illegal? Which one do you really want? You know what I'm saying? Do you really want to campaign for cherry pickers? You know what I'm saying? Or do you really want to campaign for people who actually want to fight the best? Him doing that is showing the kind of mentality which we are requesting, which we say is missing in boxing. We keep talking about the throwback fighter. We keep talking about the throwback mentality. We keep talking about how these guys are not living up to the people who has come before them. Devin Haney is doing what that era of fighters do. It kills me when they call out somebody, hold on, slow your roll. What have you done to deserve this, and that? And for all those people that's telling Devin Haney to slow his roll, this is how I'm going to expose you guys. How are you going to tell a man to slow his roll when he is the mandatory for Vasily Lomachenko? Why does a mandatory need to slow their roll? A mandatory is a mandatory. The reason why I say this is because when people was giving Lomachenko shit for fighting certain people, you guys' response was, get off his back. It's mandatory. I mean, people talk about, he's fighting another bum, Luke Campbell, this and that. Well, get off his back. It's his mandatory. Oh, he's fighting Linares, this and that. Get off his back. It's his mandatory. So the point is, you can't be taking up for Lomachenko when people try to judge his level of opposition by saying it's his mandatory. Obviously, he has to do it. Okay, now Devin Haney is his mandatory. So you keep that same energy now that Devin Haney is his mandatory. Don't say all of a sudden now, slow your roll, And I don't want to hear what has he done to deserve it. Because like I said, what has Gervonta Tank Davis done to deserve it? He has no names on his list, but most of y'all want to bring up that, he's a champ. All right. You can have a belt and still not fight anybody. You know that. The point is, what was the person that Gervonta Davis beat to say this guy's the one? Just like people are saying about Devin Haney. Who has Devin Haney beat that made you believe that this kid is the goods? Who has Gervonta Tank Davis beat that made you believe he's the goods? Nobody believed Gervonta Tank Davis. No, he is the goods. He's promising, but nobody believes that he's all that yet. They still want to fight with Gervonta Tank Davis, and he hasn't proved anything. But everybody leans on the fact that he's a champ. All right, lean on the fact that he's a champ. You know what I'm saying? That's cool. But at the same time, notice that Devin Haney and Gervonta Tank Davis, minus him having a belt or not, are on the same level, if not Devin Haney is better as far as who deserves what and what has they done. If you ask me, they're about the same in accomplishments. If you honestly look at it, they're about the same in accomplishments. The other thing I don't like, is he not ready? Is he this not ready? Is he that not ready? Is he this not ready? His dad is in his corner, so I don't think his father would put him in any danger. The kid obviously believes in himself. let people believe in themselves. Nobody believed Tyson Fury could beat Deontay Wilder coming off the couch. We thought it was insane. Nobody thought Tyson Fury could beat Klitschko. Nobody. But what did he do? He defied the odds and he did it. And he did it in their backyard. All right, so everybody deserves that opportunity to prove you wrong. Okay? Let them have that opportunity. Why would people think that Devin Haney is so out of depth? Do you not realize these, and this is for the people who study boxing, not people who casually, ask them, when you compare Luke Campbell versus Devin Haney, if you cannot agree that one is better than the other, can you agree that these guys are on the same level? Now, I'm going to tell you right now, Devin Haney is a better boxer than Luke Campbell. And Luke Campbell's good, don't get me wrong. But he's a better fighter than Luke Campbell. I can tell you that right now. Now, if you don't agree with that, if you're calling yourself any kind of boxing aficionado, you would at least have to admit Luke Campbell and Devin Haney are on the same damn level. If you cannot admit that Devin Haney is a better fighter than Luke Campbell, you got to give me one or the other. You're either going to admit that they're on the same level or Devin Haney's better. You know, so with that being said, what would make you think that Devin Haney couldn't give Vasily Lomachenko an even tougher fight than Luke Campbell? And Luke Campbell is who Lomachenko said was his toughest fight to date. That puts Devin Haney right up there in the front runner as a possibility of somebody who can beat Lomachenko. Because if you compare Luke Campbell to Devin Haney, they're on the same level or if not better, easily. So why is that an impossible fight? It's not like he had a blowout performance against Pedraza, but Gervonta Tank Davis did. It's not like he had a blowout performance against Luke Campbell. So who's to say that Devin Haney is not a good enough opponent right now? That makes no sense. But like I always say, it's always contradictions, and people always start tripping over their own feet. You know, because it's not Vasily Lomachenko. Vasily Lomachenko was somebody who will succumb to the pressure of his fans and who they think he should fight. That's one thing that I like about him. He actually pays attention to what you guys say. You know, so it's actually the fans that are more fearful of Lomachenko doing great things than Lomachenko. Like, so for that doesn't make no sense. And to add even more of a stake to my claim is, how could you say, and listen, how could you say Devin Haney is not ready, or what makes you think he's ready when he hasn't fought anybody good? Okay? Now, keep that in mind, and then explain to me why Bob Arum suggested Vasily Lomachenko versus Shakur Stevenson. So you mean to tell me Shakur Stevenson is not inexperienced? You mean to tell me that Shakur Stevenson has fought somebody that both Gervonta Tank Davis and Devin Haney hasn't fought to separate him from the pack? Who was that person? Let me know. When did that fight happen? I don't know. Okay? So I don't want to hear how unexperienced or what has he done or how could he prove it, because if Bob Arum, Vasily Lomachenko's manager, is talking about fighting a Shakur Stevenson, but has the nerve to say a Devin Haney ain't ready, well, it's easily to see the contradiction and the bullshit in that, isn't it? It's very clear to see. So if you're talking about fighting a Shakur Stevenson, Bob Arum, you should be talking about fighting a Devin Haney, which is his mandatory. That's plain and simple. Ain't no way you can cut around it. All right? And the reason why Devin Haney, just like Teofimo Lopez, is lobbying for this fight, because these guys are young. They're not going to be at that weight class long, especially Devin Haney. And Teofimo Lopez is secretly already out of that weight class. You know what I'm saying? It's already a struggle for him right now. So if we want to see these fights and stuff like that, you're going to have to give these kids the opportunities now, because they're not 30-something. They're in their 20s and their bodies are still growing. So they're not going to stay at 135. So I see why they want to make the fight. But on top of that, it's plain and simple. Devin Haney is his mandatory. All right? Now, the issue comes into play where people say, well, he's talking about going back down in weight, but not fighting his mandatory. And nobody can understand because they said, well, why are you going to do that when you're waiting for the Lopez Comey winner? So that means you're going to sit around for almost a year and not fight nobody. And if you are fighting somebody, it's going to be somebody other than Devin Haney. You're mandatory. So you're going to go back down in weight. Now, keep in mind, I don't care if a Devin Haney Lomachenko fight or not. You know what I'm saying? I really don't care. I really don't see it happening because I'm like, he's already headed towards undisputed. I mean, why are we confusing things now? This is just coming to a head where I need it to be. So me personally, I don't care nothing about it. But if I'm going to go by what people have said and what his fan base has said, then yeah, it's only right that he fights Devin Haney. And if he doesn't fight Devin Haney, so what too? You know what I'm saying? Does it look biased? Of course it looks biased. But I've been saying that from the beginning. You know, nobody seems to really care. So I have relaxed on it. Why do I care? You know, I'm starting to let these boxers do whatever they want. And as long as I get the fights that I want to see, I don't care how people think of them or how they perceive them or nothing like that. Because as boxing fans, we can't be honest with each other. So I've already figured that out. So since we can't be honest with each other, as long as I get to see the fights that I want to see, I really don't care what else, how they do or how they perceived or who they think they duck anymore, because you can't have a civil conversation. It seems to be with boxing fans no more because we're such in a tight panty waist state, you know, and everybody's just so super sensitive. But me personally, I don't care. Is it hypocritical of Lomachenko's fans? Not Lomachenko, but Lomachenko's fans? Then yes. I would say if that's the case, yeah, go ahead and fight Devin Haney because you ain't doing nothing else. And, you know, why not? You know, at the end of the day, that's how I got to put it. Why not? You know, just go ahead and fight him. It's not like he's not your mandatory. And, you know, it's not like Lomachenko beating Devin Haney would change anything because he's going to get hate regardless. But it would mean something to the pure boxing fans. I will say that. You know, I mean, I think it's cool to beat up on some of these young cats. And it's at the stage now where you want to fight Lomachenko, and I'm going to end it with this. The reason why you want to fight Lomachenko as soon as you can, because you want to fight Lomachenko before people with agendas in boxing and his boxing fans get the opportunity to say to you, you fought him when he was out of his prime. Because truthfully, if we were to be honest right now, Lomachenko is out of his prime. Nobody wants to talk about that because nobody really knows the ages of boxing. Do you know that you're considered out of your prime? You know what I'm saying? Or and you should be considered getting ready to retire when you enter your 30s. People forget boxing is a young man's sport. It's not a sport you're supposed to start late in the game. It's a reason why it's a young man's sport, so you can end your career early so you won't have damage. Because it's nothing like a youthful body. A youthful body heals from everything. This is why you're not supposed to stay in the boxing game too long. You're supposed to quit while you're approaching in your 30s. So you can still walk away with a normal life because at that point, your body is still kind of superhuman. You know what I'm saying? So that's why it's a young man's sport. But truthfully, he's out of his prime right now. He's considered an old boxer. The boxer that you've seen now is nothing like the 26, 25, 28-year-old amateur Vasily Lomachenko. Vasily Lomachenko, people don't want to believe it, has spent his best years in the amateurs. If you think he's good now, you should have seen him at 26. You should have seen him at 24. You know what I'm saying? That's when he was running. But he chose to stay in the amateurs. So it's at a point now where you want to fight these fighters because they're not going to stay in the weight class too long. And you want to fight Lomachenko because he's not getting any younger. But either way, as long as he goes the undisputed route, I don't care if he sits out or not. It is hypocritical and it is not fair as far as the standards that everybody put on everybody else. But like I said, who cares? Anyways, that's just my thoughts on it. Leave your thoughts in the comment section. Bruce Van, I'm out.